Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I'm joined by Daylan Flowers, and we're going to talk about all things Ole Miss sports in a second. We're going to start with the Detroit Tigers taking on the Houston Astros today. And the reason I bring it up on this podcast, Daylan, the starting shortstop in this game was Grae Kessinger. He had the play of the day defensively. Spring training, by the way, if anybody can ever do it, if you are a baseball fan at all, even a little bit, I recommend that you go spend a week following your team around like the Grateful Dead through spring training, because all the stadiums are relatively close. I think Detroit has a road game in Dunedin. That's like 40 minutes down the road. They've played in Fort Myers, which is like 90 minutes down the road. You can do a whole experience of traveling along with it. And the best part about it is the only people in the stadium are hardcores. The games happen at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's retirees that are huge baseball fans and people that have traveled down from their home cities to watch the game. So it's really cool indeed. I love this time of year specifically for that.
I love to hear that, man. You brought up the name Grae Kessinger. I haven't heard that name in a while, and that's good to hear him that he's doing well and getting through that system well. I'm always excited about spring training, especially this year, because my Cardinals didn't have the best of years last year. So I'm excited to see the development of what our young guys are looking like. And I'm excited for you, man. I can just really tell that you had a good time. Your vibes are just really good on you today. And I love that you got to go out there and enjoy that moment, because we were talking about it a little bit, but like, I feel like spring training is so completely different from, of course, regular games, but it also is like a different, like, cinematic point that you probably wouldn't get at a regular game too. So I'm happy that you got to enjoy that. And I think this has been a really good time for baseball too, because we're kind of transitioning. Football is really fully ended now, and basketball, the All-Star weekend was just happening, and it kind of really didn't. It's getting the All-Star game for the basketball is kind of really going down, and I think right now baseball is transitioning. I think a lot of people are excited about that, so I'm love to hear that from you, man.
Yeah, and I honestly love it. One of the cool things that happened today is Brady Allen, who is a no-name player. And when I say no-name, there's a no-name on the back of the jersey. That's probably where that comes from. That's a spring training thing. That's people that just got invited and they're playing games. Well, he had a home run today versus the Houston Astros. And as soon as he touched home plate, the PA system started playing Sandstorm. And I laughed. At that point, it's like, okay. And this is a whole bunch of people from Detroit, Michigan that probably had no idea what that is. Yeah. But a kid from South Carolina hit a home run and they played Sandstorm. And there's about 4 people in the audience that got it.
That's cool. I love that too, because he probably, doesn't even have walk-up music or anything like that. So I'm sure he got to enjoy that experience just a little bit more because of that being played. And I also think, like you just said, the spring training also gives guys a different feel from maybe double or triple A baseball, and understand what's kind of really going on in the real world and how they manage or work things behind the scenes and how things work when you get up to the plate, stuff like that. But that's awesome, man. I love that. That's what baseball is all about. And I think sometimes we get, even sports about, we get so caught up in so many different things, but I love that moment for him. That sounds so really cool.
Yeah. It was probably the biggest moment of his life. And I was like, hey, that's cool. So let's transition over to basketball, something a little bit less friendly. But Ole Miss lost to South Carolina, speaking of South Carolina, in a game that probably is going to cost them the NCAA tournament. Now, Ole Miss can still get there. There's still a path. They can beat Alabama. They can win out. They can have a run in the SEC tournament. It's not over, but realistic probability-wise, it went way down. So the question is, and I tried to articulate this on today's podcast, but because of the podcast migration, people that might be listening to the audio side of the house haven't heard it yet. It's okay if Ole Miss's men's basketball team does not make the NCAA basketball tournament this year. This is a team that won 3 SEC games a year ago. This is a team that won like 9 games a year ago. Ole Miss hasn't lost 9 games yet. They're still doing that. They're about to hit March, and they haven't lost 9 games. This season, by just about any metric, is a huge successful thing. Now, I will say this. Ole Miss needs to figure out a way to hit 500 in men's basketball. And this is a tired basketball team. You can actually see them on the floor. They're tired at the moment. They need to figure out a way to get to 500 in the league. If that happens, they can continue to build. And next year looks like it could be a breakout for Ole Miss basketball.
I agree 100% with everything you just said. We have a tough game against Bama Wednesday, I believe, here at Oxford, and I think it'll test us really well. But I appreciated the Carolina game for many different reasons. I will say that I thought we did get some questionable calls from officials this weekend, but I think all in all, we didn't play our best game. And I think this game against Carolina, which is hilarious to me because Carolina's a really good basketball team. And not even, I don't think a full week ago yet, Auburn beat the brakes off of them, especially in the second half. I think, Carolina made a score like 1-2 points, within, the last 10 minutes of the second half last weekend. But it was a really good Carolina team that came in and was looking for some vengeance coming off that Auburn loss. And they showed us up. And I think it was honestly needed for us to kind of get a reality check and a little bit of an uppercut to the jaw. And I think it tested where our mindset kind of is and where our emotions can be when we're in a tough game and we get down and we try to come back into it with momentum and then we just don't get to where we are. And I think our mentality was tested this weekend. And I honestly think that was needed for us. And like you said, I'm not in any means at all disappointed with this team if we don't reach the tournament. Now, the options, like you said, it's not impossible for us to get there. I think we play Bama this week. I know we played Missouri again. I believe we played A&M one time as well. And
in Georgia.
Yeah, in Georgia. And so A&M's inconsistent. They've been really good at times, but they also have not played their best at times as well. In Georgia, I would kind of say the same thing too. They're kind of been on the lower end and not really truly reached their full potential. So there are winnable games for us here on this last couple of game stretch. It's just how we approach them and how we attack them. I think just another big point for the Carolina game was they humbled us at home. And I really think we needed that as well. And, I don't want us to lose. I never want us to lose. If we could go undefeated every season, I'd be so happy. But I think games like that at home on a weekend are needed for young guys, especially in a new culture, new system. And a lot of these guys, this is their first year here, to understand what can we do to help elevate not only us as players, but us in this culture. And I think we got a real good taste of that. I think we have a lot of key pieces to move around as well. I think Brakefield, who I love, is just not really fitting into the 5 role right now. And I kind of think he's gotten beat up over the last couple of weeks in that role. And I think if we had just a more aggressive big, a guy that just likes to get dirty a little bit more, likes to put his shoulder in the guys a little more, I think we'd be more we'd be more poised going into late game situations. And even in our half court offense, I think we'd be a little bit more free with the ability for a guy like that on offense. So there's a lot of things that we can break down what we saw from Carolina. I'm not concerned at all. I think we are having a lot of growing pains right now, which is natural when you have a first-year coach, a completely new system, a lot of guys that are transferred in or really didn't see a lot of guys back from our last year's team. And so this is a process. I'm very proud of where we're coming, just not even a full year yet. So the sky's the limit. And I think if we could just continue trying to progress and understand where we need to be and not try to get there now, I think we'll be just fine. I think we're going to be okay as well.
Yeah, when you look at this basketball team, the position that was missing from this team, you've got your rim protectors, you've got Alan Flanagan, who has a decent mid-range game. You have the three-point shooting of Matthew Morrell. You have a lot of stuff that's going well for this team. But, man, if this team had a Murphy Holloway, if this team had a Dwayne Curtis, somebody that you could go inside and you can count on them to get points near the basket. I mean, Ole Miss has 2 7-footers on their team. I've never seen 7-footers get their shot blocked so often. And this isn't against them or anything about that. It's just that Ole Miss needs that low post offensive player, and that is what this team is missing.
I agree. I 100% agree because, and I think this is what sets teams apart in college basketball. If you have a really good dominant big man, not just one, but if you have two, and guys that know how to bang, that love to be aggressive, that love to go after every rebound, that love to dive after loose balls, that loves to try to attempt after every block, guys that don't mind getting a few scratches on their arms when the game is in. And I just don't think we have that. I think we have a lot of height and length, but I just don't think we have a lot of just muscle on our guys down low. And that's not a knock to anyone. I just think that is something that we have to take time to develop and understand what we need to have going into the future. And it's how we develop. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's almost like Ole Miss is a really good college Euro team.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It is. It's not necessarily a passive thing, but the way they play, that's the feeling that I get. These might be American-born players and all that, and it really doesn't talk about geography, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. Euro players. Jamin Brakefield is a Euro type player.
I love that analogy because I think, and if people don't know a lot about Euro basketball, if you don't even have to really watch a full game, you can go and look at some highlights and see just the tightness more that they play with, but also the versatility of the guys over there and how just I'd say a little bit more free they are, but they also play like a little bit more tighter rules than we do in American basketball. And so it's difference in what we're able to do in say a half court offense than maybe a full court offense. But I think we're seeing how Chris Beard wants to play his type of basketball right now. And then we'll see the same thing now. You remember when he first got hired, we were getting all of these guys, these transfers, he was recruiting like crazy. You're going to see that same exact thing when this season is up. You're going to see he's picking the needles right now to see what do I need to help bring this team where it needs to be, which is at an elite level, competing for championships. And now he's going to look at things like who's coming back, who's not coming back, what options are available when we get to that point of the transfer portal, and even recruits coming out of high school. He's done a really good job recruiting high school players too as well, and that's something I've been really proud of him doing as well, and his staff. So we're going to see what we need going into the later parts of this season and the offseason. And I just think it's going to take time to get what we need right away and develop those things because, I think this is just my opinion. We haven't, got our feet really wet in terms of being a really known basketball school. And I think we're getting to that point now that we can have a chance to do that. And I think that gives us a little bit more notability, with guys coming in. And so I'm excited to see where we're headed. But it's going to take time to develop. And I think Coach Beard knows we're going to have to have a little patience, but just trust him. And I think everything will be just fine.
And changing the subject a little bit, Ole Miss baseball is waking up a little bit after a Jekyll and Hyde week. Now, this is a team that lost to Arkansas State, dropped 2 straight games against Hawaii, lost the opener to High Point, and then took out every bit of the frustration on High Point pitching the rest of the weekend. Is this something that can be continued?
I would hope so. I think, batting, of course, is important. But I think just the fluidity that we started the game with, I think we had 11 runs in the first game of that 25 game inning. If we can come out with, and let me pause before I get too far ahead of what I'm saying. When I say come out, I don't just mean swing at every pitch and try to swing for the fence, but I'm saying come out, understand the game plan, make sure you've watched film on that pitcher coming into the game and know what he has in his arsenal, know what he may throw at you on a different count, be able to be comfortable in the box situation so we know what we can do. Because I really believe that we worked so well because we understood what was coming at us in that first inning. And that allowed us to just pop off and pop off and pop off. And when we're in those situations, I think that just allows everyone else to be more relaxed. I know Bianco has kind of had an issue developing and recruiting pitchers. I think just to kind of go off the grid, I think we could get a little bit more lefties in our rotation, a little bit more guys that use the breaking balls a little bit more, and he doesn't really have that a lot. So I'd like to see where we go with our pitching situation this year, especially with some key guys injured as well, unfortunately. But shout out to Austin Simmons, man, our freshman, plays football and baseball. Of course, he had a pretty good opening season this past couple of days, and I think he's gonna he's going to be a stud. I think he's enjoying being here. And I think he's just not getting comfortable here as well. And when he gets just going a little bit more, gets that arm rotating, gets that arm flowing a little bit, I think he's going to be something to watch out for. So we'll see how he turns out. But it's going to take time. And unfortunately, I don't want it to take time. And I just think that's because of the guilt that we won a national championship 2 years ago. And, we can take that how we want to, because that season as well, a lot of people can say we shouldn't even been in that situation in the tournament. But we got there and we got hot, and y'all let us get hot. Y'all didn't stop us, as Tim Echo likes to say. So we'd like to see where the potential with this team is. And we know the expectation should be Omaha, but let's continue to keep flowing before SEC play gets here, because I think that's important, just to get guys comfortable and not overthinking going into SEC play as well. I think if we can just stay calm and focus on what we need to focus on, I think we'll be fine on both aspects of pitching and batting as well.
On Austin Simmons, I have it on very good authority on this one. Austin Simmons is not planning on missing much of any snaps in spring football. He's also intending on pitching and being the type player that he needs to be. He has a very busy month of March and April set up for him. And the 3 weeks to where we're playing spring football, it might be a situation to where he practices on Saturday and flies to wherever the team is for a Sunday game, and he participates in the Sunday atmosphere. This should be very interesting. Austin Simmons is probably the most talented football player that Ole Miss has ever signed, our most talented athlete that Ole Miss has ever signed. Ole Miss is trying desperately not to mess this guy up because he is so gifted overall. But his work that is going to be coming in football, because he is fully intending on being the backup quarterback come this fall. I have that on very good authority. This competition between Walker Howard and Austin Simmons is already started. And whoever's going to replace Jackson Dart, that is going to start getting hammered down this spring.
I'm excited for it. I've said before my opinions on Walker, and I remember specifically saying I just thought his work ethic is really outstanding for a guy that has not seen much college playing time, and I think just his ability to be good and his, I would say, pro-like arm. He has a really good arm, and that I don't think a lot of people know about just because we haven't seen him a lot. But if you got to watch him in the span of the couple of games he got to play in this past season, and even in the spring game last spring, you got to see and understand what his potential is. But I think I'm excited for Austin as well, because I think he brings a bit of unfamiliar confidence and swagger that we haven't seen at this school before. And when I say that, I don't think a lot of people also understand what he brings to the table, because we haven't seen him really at all.
He's 2 plus 3 inches.
And there's some clips out there. Just search his name up on YouTube and you'll find some clips of him absolutely gunslinging the football down the field. And of course, precision and accuracy and footwork and moving in the pocket and throwing in the pocket will come with time and development. But I think his raw potential is going to be fun for fans. And I just think you guys just sit back and watch and understand what we even have to be able to be great at that quarterback position. We're going to be excited for JD coming back for his last year, but to know what the future is, either whether it's Walker or Austin, just be excited and know that we have a really talented group of guys competing to be the best quarterback and best player they can be for this football team.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Daylan Flowers, thank you so much, man, and we'll talk to you next week.
Of course, anytime, y'all. Hotty toddy. Take care, everyone.
Hotty toddy.